On Thursday, the 18th of March 2021, in an effort to relieve my lockdown fatigue, I took a stroll into town to see what I could see. And being the snap-happy guy that I am, I took my camera with me to photograph and film anything of interest that caught my eye. Oh look, a cat up on a roof watching the world go by. Lovely. And then the not so lovely. Here's a grim reminder of our homeless crisis. No doubt, this poor misfortune's self-provision of emergency accommodation will be removed in due course by the local authorities. They prefer the homeless to be out of sight and out of mind. Onwards I go into town, passing by the People's Park. Look at the beautiful cherry blossom in full bloom. Spring has truly sprung. And just look at the crows getting their nest ready. Oh, to be as free as a bird. I continued on my way into town, and as I crossed into Thomas Street, I spotted a bit of a fuss. I saw two Gardaí talking to a group of people. Just as the Gardaí were walking away and taking up position nearby, I took out my camera, started recording, and went to investigate. I thought I recognised a few heads from the Limerick branch of the Socialist Party. It looked like some sort of protest was about to kick off. Or perhaps it was coming to an end. David Hurley, a correspondent for the Limerick Leader newspaper, was interviewing one of them, and the local radio station, Live 95 FM, was interviewing another. A bit of a local media frenzy for whatever it was that was going on. I decided to keep moving and check back later to see if it got a bit more lively with some chanting or other such activity. I returned 5 minutes later and there was even less people there, but I did recognise this chap. The lad with his face knickers hanging off and not social distancing from his comrade now that the media were gone. His name is James Chewie, or Seamus O'Toohig as he calls himself on Facebook. He is one of the main apparatchiks and organisers for the Socialist Party in Limerick. We are known to each other, so I waved hello to him as I passed by. He waved back, so I decided to go over and ask him what was going on. At the time, I had no inclination or intention to make a video about them, so I spoke to him off camera. He quickly pulled his face knickers on and politely informed me that it was a protest against gender-based and police violence organised by the socialist feminist group Rosa, because of the woman that had been murdered in London. Yes, they were shamelessly exploiting the abduction and brutal murder of Sarah Everard to promote their twisted and extreme ideology. I asked him what was the Garda response to their illegal gathering. I might not agree with their lula politics, but I do support their right to protest and publicly express their views. Mr. Toohey informed me that the Gardaí were on the scene 10 minutes after they had started their protest and had told them to pack it up and move on, and that they were now in the process of doing as instructed, as fines would be issued if they were still there when the Gardaí returned. The Socialist Party Limerick like to glorify violence and celebrate violent people on Facebook. They recently made a big deal about defending the right of people to protest, but when it came to the crunch, they weren't so much Rage Against the Machine as they were obedient little schoolgirls.
I will obey the first time I'm told. I will obey right away. Never asking why, never with a sigh. I will obey right away.
Rosa, the official organisers of this farcical 10-minute protest, is one of a number of subsidiaries created by the Socialist Party, which includes the far-left political party Solidarity, and closer to home, the permanently outraged and always mendacious Limerick Against Fascism, where anyone to the right of Leon Trotsky gets hatefully targeted and labelled as far-right. Indeed, I was recently targeted by them in a preemptive post on Facebook where they childishly mocked my poor performance in local elections and completely demeaned my exemplary work as a community activist. They called me outrageous names in an attempt to inspire hatred towards me, and they also viciously targeted my children for hate by saying that I've indoctrinated my children to hate minorities. They accused me of being a fundamentalist Catholic and a far-right activist. I'm actually an atheist, and the results of my political compass test has me pegged as a left-wing libertarian. I just don't hate religion or religious people, and unlike the Socialist Party and their ilk, I'm not a supporter of sectarian bigotry and hatred. This nasty and vile attempt to discredit me is no doubt motivated out of fear that I will release embarrassing video footage that I have featuring one of their high-profile associates, which I will publish in due course, and it won't be edited. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, you won't want to miss it. Mr. Chewie is one of 6 admins that manage their Limerick Antifa page. He never made any of those false accusations to my face when we were talking, and he knew well who I was at the time. What an absolute coward. But I digress. Let's get back to the protest. This is how the Limerick Leader reported on it. Oh, and be sure to keep an eye out for me passing by.
Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win.
On behalf of lots of people who can't actually be here today, for the same reasons, for the reasons that affect women, LGBTQ, non-binary people, and that is misogynistic culture that we live in at the moment, and that needs to be tackled head on.
You obviously feel very strongly to be here during the COVID restrictions.
Absolutely, I feel very strongly, but I also think that this demonstration was essential. I wouldn't be going to a public event like this unless it was something that I felt really, really strongly about, something that I thought was urgent.
What a load of waffle. This is Ireland, not Iran or Saudi Arabia. We don't have a misogynistic culture here. I mean, there are so many local issues that could be highlighted and protested about, such as the very visible homelessness and all the boarded up houses around Limerick City, particularly in so-called regeneration areas, but there isn't a peep out of them about any of that. If it's not related to divisive identity politics and Marxist theory, then they just don't care about it. Of course, they can't protest the lockdown because they have been very busy for the past few months labelling anti-lockdown protesters as far-right and fascist. Yes, it's much too late for them to make a U-turn on that issue, so they had to content themselves with exploiting the horrific murder of a woman in the UK by an off-duty policeman just so they could promote their nonsense. Needless to say, nobody turned up to their exploitation fest, despite the fact that they got free advertising for it on local radio earlier that day. But that didn't stop them from claiming that the protest was a success. I understand the need to report on events, but shame on the local media for giving them a platform to air their far-left views unchallenged. And shame on the Socialist Party for not having the courage of their convictions in asserting their right to protest. Whatever happened to "no way, we won't pay"? Just take the fine and contest it in court. Never mind the revolution, these comrades can't even manage a bit of peaceful but defiant civil disobedience. In fact, these elderly congregants of the Sacred Heart Church have more Leo Rodi than them when it comes to asserting their rights.
Okay, I think I'll just take fine because God comes first. We'll all, our lives are passing. You know, we can't leave very important things.
There's another question about
we're all very law-abiding citizens. Like we wouldn't be people who
not disputing that. We never were disputing that.
I know what you're saying, but we can't. We will come in the name of God. We'll offer it.
Exactly.
All right. Okay.
Our Lord has been crucified again.
The Socialist Party and company. They can talk the talk of championing the working class and defending the right to protest all they like, but when all is said and done, these mostly white, privileged, upper middle class, far left ideologues cannot and do not walk the walk.